so here we are. Welcome to the show. This is episode number 3 of To the Woods. And today I've got Matt Balcombe. Matt Balcombe, I guess we kind of first met, I suppose, because of the fishing stuff a little bit and some of the back. I learned about you perhaps that way more. I think I met you at a guide.
I think the first time we ever met, we went, it was when, oh God, what year was that? 2016 or 2017 maybe, when it was the big outdoor show there in the spring. You were working that, and we had touched base about me helping out with some Federation stuff. I think we met up for a coffee.
That's right. That is exactly correct. Very good memory.
Well, that's what's
and
left
you know
of
what?
it.
That was 2016, and that almost seems like 2016.
2016?
That's like an eternity ago.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 4 years really isn't a lot of time, but
it flies by.
Yeah. So for the viewers out there that don't know you like I do, I've managed to do a backcountry kayak/canoe trip with you, and a couple of other things that we've managed to do together. But for those that don't really know you, kind of give me an idea of, what it is that you do, where it is you volunteer, and that sort of, stepping up to where you are now.
Yeah. Basically born and raised just outside Halifax. Basically lived here my whole life. In my career, I work as a civil engineer, do wastewater treatment plant design. But then I guess like the reason that I'm here with you now is lifelong fisherman. And I think I started hunting when I was 14 or 15. I kind of got interested in that, and my dad, got me into hunter safety, and we started doing some small game hunting. But I think I was fishing long before that, when I was 3 or 4 or something like that. So yeah, and then the outdoors kind of took a back seat for me for about 4 years while I was in university.
That happens to us all, I think. I do.
Engineering doesn't leave a whole lot of time for extracurriculars.
Yeah.
So once I got out of school and started working, finally, a little bit of money, a little bit of time off, got back into it, and basically, I started really wanting to get more involved to see what was going on behind the scenes. So I think that's probably about the time when I reached out to you just to see if there was something I could get involved with the Federation, and we chatted. And then I kind of learned a little bit about how the Federation worked with the member clubs and all that stuff. So then that kind of kicked off the process for me of like, okay, well, what club am I going to join? And I spent some time looking around at different clubs, and eventually I found, through Shan, SCI Nova Scotia, or Safari Club Nova Scotia chapter, and they were active, doing lots of stuff, lots of good initiatives. So I got involved with them there, started helping put on a couple events, and then the AGM came up there, and I got nominated for a board position and accepted that. So now for coming up on 1.5 years, I guess I've sat on the board for SCI Nova Scotia.
Yep.
And then for the last, I can't remember when Shan, we had an internal election and some positions got moved around, and the seat to be the Federation rep for our club opened up, and I was nominated for that. So now I sit as a director for the board of the Federation of Anglers and Hunters, representing SCI Nova Scotia.
Exactly. And you are a guide. You operate a guide business, mostly for fishing though, right?
Well, I do 2 things. So myself, here in Nova Scotia, I run Wild Northeast Outfitters, which is basically, I do like walk and wade, somewhat backcountry fly fishing for brook trout, a couple of rivers where, it's a sort of a hike in only river, and I can take, clients for day trips and that sort of thing. Toying with the idea of expanding, like I've been asked a lot about expanding into like multi-day backcountry canoe trips. So I'm toying with that. I don't have all the logistics worked out yet though. I do that. And then not counting this year due to COVID, the last couple of years I've worked for an outfitter in Ontario out of Red Lake doing fly-in moose hunts.
Right.
So I'll go guide for him in the fall.
How
Hopefully that'll be back on this year.
How many
What's
years?
that?
How many years have you done that?
2 years, and then I
2 years.
missed this year, so
This
I'm
year.
hoping to go back next year.
That always looks like so much fun.
It's a blast. Yeah,
Like
it's an
they
absolute
pretty much
blast.
they drop you off, and you set up a spike camp, really, like a prospector tent,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah, basically, we have a pretty standard camp setup. So, depending on how many clients book, the outfitter's usually running probably 7 to 9 camps. He's based in Red Lake, and then the zone that we hunt in primarily is about 180 kilometers northeast of Red Lake by float plane. So he owns a couple of planes. And basically, yeah, we fly up. We have a 14 by 16 prospector tent with a wood stove and some cots. That's what we stay in. And then we have one of those. Each camp has like a sort of those like temporary tarp garages, a small one of those, and we set that up, and that's like the cook tent. So all the food, we got like a 2-burner propane stove. All the food stays out there, and then a couple of aluminum boats with 10-horse outboards, and it's primarily lake hunting up there. We do, we'll get out and walk and look for sign on the shore, but it's primarily using the boat to get to different bays and cruise different channels. And you can't hunt from the boat or shoot from the boat. Yep. Using the boat to get around to good spots. But it's a blast. It's a great time.
And I just the opportunity to be able to do that and take that time away from work in order to go up there and work. That's man, not a lot of guys get that opportunity. I mean, that's lucky. That is. I mean, right?
Yeah, and it's a fortunate thing in the industry that I work in. I can be fairly flexible.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to work for a pretty good, understanding company who encourages people to, live out their passions. So they're pretty understanding for that kind of thing, and they're willing to. You gotta pull your weight too, but they're willing to work with you at least.
No, that's wicked. So that's a fair amount. You've been doing this a while. Certainly, kind of the fishing and that, and I will be asking you to come back on another time to try and talk about the fishing stuff. I know that you have a YouTube channel. I can't remember the name of it, so I'm going to ask you to advertise yourself. What's that YouTube?
I think it's called Wild Northeast Outfitters - Matt Balcombe right now.
Okay.
It's
right.
But there's a couple of videos on there. It's
a few little things, and it's just, and I think there's going to be more. I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the stuff
I filmed my whole bear hunt this year, and I got the first. It's going to be 3 parts, so I got the first one out, and I've got the second one mostly edited, and then things, I had the best of intentions, and then things got busy, and it's not done yet. But Christmas break is coming, so I'll have some time to put to that.
So you went right to where I want to get to, because I would really, I was really kind of hoping that today that we're end of big game season, that is, and the opportunity to talk about the type of season we had in 2020. And kind of go back and forth, but I guess I do want to congratulate you, because I can see the skull over your right shoulder.
Thank you.
That was your first bear, your first year bear hunting, wasn't it?
Yeah, first ever. I mean, other than like what I think every Nova Scotian deer hunter does, because you always get bears marauding your deer site, is
right.
Buy a bear tag and hope one walks out. But
but deliberately,
first year, making a good conscious effort for a bear. Yeah.
And you did it archery with a compound bow, correct?
Yep, I did.
So tell me how, because this is something that I talk about a lot, both at the Federation and amongst all of the different groups. How do we get more bear hunters? And I know that I've done some YouTube videos to try and I don't know if I want to say simplify it, but it's arduous, how to hunt for a bear, for the most part, when you're deliberately doing it baiting, but it's not difficult. Like, it's just a little bit time consuming. How did you go about figuring out how to do it? And like if you were going to say to somebody watching this video what you did in order to prepare for this season, what did you do?
I annoyed the hell out of you.
Okay, not what I was going for, but not untrue, I suppose. And I wasn't annoyed. You know how I'm talking about that.
No, I think. How do I want to start this? it had never really perked my interest before until I kind of decided this year would be the year. I really wanted to make a conscious effort to see how far I could push eating only wild game meat. That's kind of
Oh,
what started it for me. I wanted to see how far I could push that. I knew I couldn't do it totally,
right.
but I wanted to see how far I could take it. And I looked at like what are the opportunities available in Nova Scotia?
Yep.
And deer being the obvious one. And
Yep.
I said, well,
Well,
black bear is another species that's abundantly available, and it's another tag I can get. I don't have to draw, like it's not like you have to wait like a Cape Breton moose tag or something like that to draw it. You can over the counter go buy it. So I said, well, if I'm going to make an effort at this is probably one of my best avenues. So that's probably the catalyst for me, what made me get into it.
I like that. And you know what? I'll be honest, I think there's a lot of current non-hunters who are very interested in hunting in some way in their subconscious mind, because they like the idea of going out and harvesting that local, very green meat source. It's not. Yeah. And I mean, as hunters, we almost don't talk about it anymore. It's just something that hunters have always done. They've always had game meat in the freezer.
Yeah. Although, like, I think it's the message is probably louder than it's been in the past. There's, not to state the obvious, but like, programs like Meat Eater and everything that they're just putting out so much more content than what's ever been available.
Do you think that type of content is getting to the non-hunter?
I think it is. Yeah, that's been my experience just in talking to guys too.
And this is what I'm asking. Yeah, I mean, I know I have my experiences, but nobody wants to listen to my bullshit. They want to hear what you guys got to say. But yeah, okay. So, and I mean, you're a little younger than I am, and not a great deal younger.
We don't have to say how many years.
We don't have to go into details. But I mean, you're the number of people that I know have reached out to me, whether I was at the archery club or as the Traditional Archers Association president at a time, and known for doing archery. There seems to be a lot of that 20 to 30 age group that were reaching out because they weren't gun enthusiasts, but they very much liked the idea, or they were having that call to the wild to go out and try and harvest their own meat for different reasons. And
yeah, I think it's the same reason we're seeing like a huge takeoff in people growing, like having gardens and growing their own vegetables. I think it's the self-sufficiency message is really people are really finding that appealing. The idea of being more self-sufficient.
Yeah. And you see it in a couple different avenues. I mean, you've got the whole bushcraft thing, which every time I say the word bushcraft, I feel dirty. It's just woodsmanship. You're just
Yeah. I guess it's a certain genre of woodsmanship.
Yeah, that's right. And then within that group, you got the bug out guys and the guys who just like to go out and rough it. And I have to admit, I totally get that. Going out and roughing it is 100% fun and relaxing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
To get away for 3 or 4 nights in the backwoods with what you took with you, and that's it. I don't know. There's a lot of appeal to that.
Yeah, I've tried to distill that down. Why I like that, like, because I mean that's probably the thing I'm most into is if I could pick only one outdoor activity to take with me for the rest of my life, it would be those like backcountry canoe trips.
Yeah.
And I tried to, like, somebody asked me this summer when we were on one, like, why do you like it so much? And I tried to like really think about that for a little while. Yeah. And I think what I got down to was, or at least like the deepest level I could drill down to, was that, during the week in whatever you want to call it, society or in the city or in your normal day-to-day life, at least I am getting pulled a million different directions. And you got social media pulling and TV and advertisements and work and all these things going on all around you all the time. But when you're out there, it's like one thing at a time. Like, okay, we're back at camp. Like, let's get a fire going. Okay, I'm going to get a fire going. Okay, we need to get the tent put up. Okay, well, let's go put the tent up. And that's all you're focused on is singular activities. And
Yeah.
to not be pulled a million different directions, I find like I come back after, 2 or 3 days and it's just like a reset. You feel good.
In a reset, I use that a lot, and I briefly kind of hit on it when I was speaking with Melanie in episode 2. That archery and the woods and all of that, for me, I've dealt with anxiety my whole life, truthfully, and a lot of people who know me and would call me Hollywood don't understand the type of agoraphobia that I have had and struggle with every day, because I do okay in groups. It's a bit of an act, right? But it's for a good cause, and that's how I get through it. And then I come home, I crash, or I go to the woods for a little while, and I've got the support at home to be able to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, that reset in the woods, I find that. I think that's what people in the city are missing. That they're missing just that opportunity to reset every once in a while.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be every weekend, right? But that one vacation to Cuba, 7 days once a year, like,
that doesn't cut it. Not for me anyway.
No, and that's it. And I suppose I'm not trying to be judgmental. I that probably came across a little judgmental. That's not what I mean. I would just love the opportunity to help people discover it for the first time, because I don't even think they know that they could get so much out of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could think about it this way. Like, I don't think I've ever took someone on a camping trip like that where at the end of it, they felt as if they didn't feel that way. Like they didn't feel like it was a reset. Like it's like always been the reaction.
Like every single time you're coming out and you're kind of packing up the truck, and they'll say, maybe 2 more days. Do you think we could do it? Like, they really are in a comfort, almost like a comfort back in their own skin again. And it's almost, for some of them, it's been a long time since they felt that way. And I know what you mean. It's almost every time you take somebody out to do that. And I take a lot of guys out and just do the like the truck camping, even, where you just,
you don't have to go far. I mean, I think it's not so much how remote you get. It's just being removed from those distractions and being a little more focused on a task by task basis, not being constantly distracted. Having that time to really just think about what you're doing and sort of absorb it.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. I want to talk about your bear hunt. I do. I want to.
Sorry.
That was awesome. No, that's exactly how this shit's supposed to go down. Yeah. And I think that's a great subject, that we all need to be talking about more. How do we get more people out there doing it? And maybe not hunting, but just getting them out into the woods.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because asking them to go on their very first time to the woods and pull the trigger, on a doe in zone 107, like that's not how you get new people over right away.
No, and I don't think it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to want to hunt, but I think, getting a little bit of exposure to the outdoors in whatever form that you find enjoyable is a good thing. And it comes back around and like we hunters and anglers like to go out into the outdoors and appreciate it in a certain way by, like extracting a resource out of it.
Yeah.
But, people who, getting outdoors, just canoeing or hiking or bird watching or whatever, it's all an appreciation for the same resource.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, the more people who are passionate about saving those resources, it's better for everybody all around.
Man, I literally just got off another Zoom call before I got on with you. And I said something almost exactly like that. We're all enjoying it differently, but we're all trying to protect the same thing. We should all be on the same team. And I think that is slowly starting to turn over. I think people are starting to realize, man, we have got to pull the population together. And
That's the reasoning I try and bring to like my board activities is that we got to work together. We're a lot more the same than we are different.
Yeah.
And we're too small a province to all be divided.
Agreed, 100%. All right, so you decided.
Sorry, I keep distracting you.
No, you're not distracting me. Squirrel. But so you watched a couple of. I mean, I know you watched my YouTube video.
Which was actually incredibly helpful. Just like I'd never had someone break it down, like, because this was totally new to me.
Yeah.
I had absolutely no idea what to do going in. So to have somebody break it down in a very detailed manner was really helpful.
It's interesting because when I made that video, I was like, oh my crikey, like it's over an hour long. No,
well, I'm not saying I've watched it continuously.
No. But no, that's it. Exactly.
I might have skipped some parts.
Right. But no, but but it's amazing that the parts that you need are in there.
They are.
Right?
They are.
The parts that somebody else might need that you were able to skip over are in there. Putting a video up that big is hopefully I never do something like that again. I try to break it into bite-sized pieces, but
yeah,
I had a lot of fun doing it because for me, I had never really ever thought of it either. So it was great for me to do. It was good exercise. So you watch that. What was the first thing? I suppose you had to find a barrel.
Yeah, that was so. Yeah, I mean, like the hurdles to me were I had no idea. Like I thought you needed to have a hookup with a bakery or like a movie theater who was going to give you garbage bags of popcorn. Like I didn't know, right?
Right.
So sourcing bait was what I thought would be a big hurdle for me. After watching your video, that was a little less daunting.
Yeah.
And then finding a barrel. But they're on Kijiji, and once I kind of put the word out there that I was looking for one, opportunities just present themselves. I ended up a connection through a connection, had a bunch that they were getting rid of, and it was no problem. So
no, and that's always it always seems a great deal more daunting, I think, until things start. Once you show commitment to a project, no matter what the project is, it's amazing how many of those barriers all of a sudden disappear. Because
it's amazing if you're passionate about something, how many people are eager to help you.
Exactly.
Yeah. People feed off that.
Yeah. All right. So you must have decided to do that. Like, what was your time frame? Like, when did you decide you were going to hunt a bear?
I think I started doing the research and pulling together resources. I don't know. It's probably May.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say it was around May. Yeah. And then I think in June I threw out a couple feeler trail like I had a spot picked out where I deer hunted the year before, and I had like 2 ground blinds that just got destroyed by bears.
It's amazing.
So I knew they were around. It's
amazing how all of a sudden, having your equipment destroyed by a bear will also help push along the idea that maybe I should take a bear and put it.
Yeah, that may have been a factor in the back, like maybe subconsciously that was a factor. There was a little revenge. So I threw up a cam in that spot. It was just like one of those mineral blocks from Canadian Tire, just to see what was out there. And it they don't have that same scent factor as some of the other baits, but I did end up with like a juvenile that wandered through, and I knew they would be around eventually. Like it's the same land that I deer hunt on down near our family's camp. So I knew that there was bears around. I didn't think it would be too much of an issue. So that was pretty much the only spot that I scouted.
Bears are everywhere, as best I can tell. But it's just a matter of, are there big ones? And if for your first one, man, I mean, any size is a good.
Yeah.
Right.
Size wasn't really. I told myself when I started it, I was going to take the first legal bear that I saw. I wasn't going to be picky about it.
With archery gear and your first season on bear, that's the right expectation, right? There's times for big skulls later.
Like I said, like the main driver was just another tag that I could use to get a whole bunch more meat to try and make it through the year. So I wasn't going to pass up a good opportunity on a legal bear. That was what I told myself going into the season.
I like that. I like the having specific conversations with yourself as a hunter before going into the woods. Why try to make the decision in the moment as
Yeah.
to this or this? Decide before you go in and stick to it, and things will usually work out for you.
I think you have to. Yeah. You don't. There's no time in the moment. You might have.
No. And
It
then
could be. You might be lucky and watch them for a few minutes, but
yeah,
it
no, I
could be
agree.
seconds, so.
Yeah. So okay, so you got this all set up. How far a shot did you set up for the and what do you shoot at the bow? What is your compound bow?
It's a oh god. So I picked this one up off Kijiji for $200 a couple of years ago. It's a 2000, I think it's a 2008 or 2009 PSE Brute, like single cam.
Okay,
But it works. It shoots.
absolutely. This is
Nothing fancy.
I, and again, I'm not. I sometimes my good friends that are compound shooters, we will play back and forth as far as the wheelie bow and the stick and string and that kind of stuff, and it's in good fun. But any archer and any bow hunting bear, any bow, man, that's an incredible accomplishment, and I'm just so pleased for anybody who is trying to do it, and then to do it your first year.
That's exciting. Yeah, I was pretty happy.
It was, yeah. So okay, so you got this all set up. When did you take them on? Was it opening night?
Yeah, it was opening day. Yeah.
That best opportunity at a bear. I think most bear.
And that's what that was playing in the back of my mind too, was like, I knew every time I sat in that stand, I was going to educate them a little bit more. And I didn't know this when I first set up the site, but like going into the season, I knew I didn't have any giant bears around. I had a couple of, the one I ended up shooting was a fairly small bear actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I had her, and I had there was a sow with 3 cubs, and there was maybe two, what would they be, 1.5 or 2.5-year-old like sibling bears still hanging around with each other. They came by very infrequently. I saw them a couple times. Primarily it was the younger yearling, I don't know, maybe a 1.5-year-old or 2.5-year-old bear that I shot, and the sow and cubs were those were the ones I was seeing regularly.
Yep. So and then on the opening night, was the sow and cubs in first, or how did it work out?
So this is funny. So I had a couple of encounters. So the way that my site was set up, so you picture, I always, deer or bear, I set up my sites facing either west or northwest.
Yeah.
Because we get the west wind or a northwest wind are pretty much the most common ones. So I walk, my trail in is off the end of sort of an old overgrown logging road. So I walk in facing north. My tree stand is there, and my barrel is out here 23 yards. So I, get in around whatever it was, 2:00, and set up. And I think it was about an hour in. There's some really nice dense brush on a hill behind my barrel, which I kind of suspected. It seemed like most of the bears, like that's where they come in from, is that really thick area.
Yep.
This one came in from the south, the same trail that I walked in, and I saw it. I just saw the black moving in out of the corner of my eye, and I look, and he came up and just, it cleared a tree out into where it sort of opened up, looked up at me, and then just walked away.
And just
I'm like, oh man, I blew it. And I could see, like, through the trees watching it, I could see it circle downwind of me. And
right.
Just, just deathly quiet. That was the most amazing thing for me, was just how quiet they are.
I agree 100%. That is that's why people don't see bears. Like, yeah, they can lay down and disappear. They can walk, and you never hear them. I mean, very
They're
rare.
like ghosts.
They're like,
and it's funny because laying in a tent at night, when you hear those like twigs snap, you're like, oh my god, is it a bear? Yeah. Well, if it was a bear, you wouldn't hear it. So.
Yeah. The first thing you would hear is,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So that was the first sighting, and that was exciting for me. That was my first. Other than like I had busted a bear going in there once to bait or a couple weeks.
Oh, that's right. That's always fun. The first time you bust a bear going in.
So that was my first like really close encounter where I, really close.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, maybe, so that was 3 o'clock. So maybe by 4:30, I see something coming in from behind my barrel. And I think it was honestly the same bear. It was the same size and the only bear of that size I had coming in. So,
Right.
And came in and did that sort of typical black bear thing, like came up, nibble, nibble, and then scoot off into the brush and came back in and probably did that 4 or 5 times, came in and until it got more comfortable. And then, and two, like I had in the back of my mind, well, like I know there's a sow and cubs around, so you got to give it time. Because oftentimes she'll ditch the cubs up a tree and come in for the first few minutes and then go back and get them. So I gave it, I think she went up, came in and left 5 or 6 times, something like that. And to the point where, like, after a while, I was confident that it wasn't the sow and cubs.
Yeah.
And it was not quite big enough to be the sow that I was seeing either. So I was confident at that point. So I knew and ended up giving, right in front of the barrel. I knew my yardage and gave me a nice broadside shot and let it go and took off. And then so then this is where it got interesting. So the bear takes off and I'm going to wait a half an hour or an hour before I do anything. And it was, shot felt
What
really
time
good.
of day? What time of day was the shot?
So yeah, this would have been like, I think the first time she came in was like 4:30, so 4:40 maybe, 4:45, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, take off, and I'm sitting there kind of waiting, texting buddies, probably texted you at some point.
Yeah.
And then half an hour maybe goes by, and I say, okay, well, like I'm gonna go down and look at the arrow because the arrow it passed through, and I can see it laying by the barrel, so I'm gonna go have a look at it and take a look at the brush leaving the little open area where I'm sitting. I go to get down, I look, and there's a cub sitting in the woods staring at me. I'm like, oh, and then there was panic. I was like, oh my God, was it the sow? And I started freaking out. And it's like, because I waited so long, I thought I was sure. But anyway, I'm like, it can't be. Like, that can't have been the sow. It was not nearly big enough. So I kind of hooted and hollered a little bit and scared the cub off. And got down and started doing the blood trailing, and it was actually a pretty tough blood trail. Like, and I'd heard that from guys, like that all the fur and the fat, they soak that blood up. And I had a good pass through it. 23 yards downward angle. I got in and out, so I had a nice low exit hole. But there was good blood for the first 20 yards, and it just totally disappeared.
Right.
Like no more blood after that.
Yeah.
And I was left with like, just, I kind of hit a place where there was maybe 3 sort of game trails where it could have gone. And at that point, I'd spent probably half an hour on hands and knees looking at my last blood, trying to find the next dot, and I just couldn't find anything. So I ended up, starting to circle out, and finally on the third trail that I tried, I found it piled up, and it wasn't 40 or 50 yards from my barrel.
Yeah. So that's one of those things, because we hear these stories all the time. I mean, you make what appears to be a great double lung shot. You got a low exit wound, which is one of the great things about hunting from a tree stand with archery gear, is you do have that nice low exit wound, which generally, offers the best blood trails if and I say generally. But then, you get that great blood trail, and then you're saying sort of like the last 20 or 15 yards, nothing. So when you recovered it, good exit wound?
Oh, covered, like, so tipped over. Let me think here. No, sorry. So my entrance hole would have been on the left, exit would have been on the right. When I found the bear, it was tipped over, laying on its left side, and so the right side was up, and it was just matted.
Yeah.
But I think it's just there's so much fur on them, they just soak all that blood up, and unless they brush it off on something, it doesn't drip down to the ground as much as a deer does.
I know when I'm teaching the bow hunter instructor safety course, or the bow hunter safety course, I should say, I often try to let guys know, like, depending on certain game animals, paintbrush, like looking what they were rubbing up against a fern. Sometimes all of the blood that you're going to find for a bear is, 24 inches off the ground. And just because that's all they're doing. The fur is brushing up against things, and it doesn't seem to be dripping as much. Now, that's not all the time, but on those occasions, that's an important thing to try and remember. So
yeah, definitely.
I'm glad you got the bear. So you get the bear out, all the rest of it. I mean, that's anybody who hunts kind of understands how that all kinds of goes down. And if you're new to hunting, it's probably important to try and have somebody with you to help you go through that stuff, to clean a game animal and get it out of the woods. But you got it out by yourself, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I had my buddy Noah came down. He's been really keen to get exposed to a little bit more. I mean, he's a pretty accomplished outdoorsman, but hunting hasn't really been part of his thing. So he's always really eager. So I texted him and he came down to give me a hand with dragging it out and getting it packed out.
Some extra muscle.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. Appreciated it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had 2 guys with me to try and get my bear out this year, and we were still sweating. Anyway, I don't have to describe that anymore. It gets
well, especially, I mean, that's the thing is extra guys just make it go so much quicker. And when in September, when you're dealing with hot weather, it like speed is everything. You
got to get that bear out of the woods too, right?
Yeah.
You just got to get the skin off, the fat off, get get the ribs spread. You really got to get it cooled off quick.
Yeah. I was fortunate, and then took it to I took it to a butcher just to hang. Like I fully quartered it and put it in game bags and packed it out that way. So the hide was off. It was entirely parted out.
Okay.
So that helped.
Yeah.
And then the game bags to keep everything nice and clean, that helped. And then I managed to get it to a butcher with a cooler to hang for the night. And then I could pick it up the next day to butcher it.
Now, because you do all of your own butchering all of your own.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Probably like not as extensive as what you would get if you took it to a proper butcher, but I take it down to, I don't know, not primal cuts, but like, I'll take all the shoulder meat or if I want to leave stuff bone in, wrap it up that way, and then take all the, the prime stuff, cut that into roasts. I'm not cutting steaks or chops or anything like that. I leave it mostly like whole muscle. But,
boneless bone in, right? Certainly.
Yeah, but even my deer this year, I left the hams and the shoulders bone in. It was a smaller deer, and I said, great opportunity to try some different things with some bone in cuts. So I actually left some of it bone in.
No, so that was great. So other than the bear, I mean, quickly, because I don't want these things to go on too long, and we'll have you on again. But when we're talking about the season, how'd you make out with deer?
Good. I just I drew an antlerless tag down in zone 103 where we deer hunt. So I had I don't know when it was, November 4th or 5th, something like that. Had just good chance on an antlerless deer and filled that tag, and I was happy to do it. Again, the goal being like see how far I can take, living off wild game meat, and I wasn't going to pass up a good opportunity. And historically, not a whole lot of hunters in my family, but I got an uncle and a cousin, and there's not a whole lot of deer got shot out of our camp over the years. So I think if I had told my great uncle that I had passed up on a deer, he would have been shaking his head. We'll say that.
Yeah. So that
would have had some harsh words for me.
Yeah. Did you get out with the bow and try it all for the archery tag?
That was the thought, was that I might, but I just kind of got into doing some other stuff. Ended up doing some more canoe trips and stuff like that, and I was happy to do that.
Absolutely. And like I said, I get to kind of follow along as your friend and see a lot of the stuff that you've been doing. I mean, you just you did a canoe trip just like this weekend.
I've done them the last 3 weekends, I think.
Yeah. So
we did
for December.
Yeah. Oh God, it's been awesome. We did, let's see, like 3 weeks ago, we ran the Herbert River and had a bunch, I think there's 4 of us, and one guy brought his hot tent and wood stove and sort of a 2-day, 1-night deal. And then we ran the LaHave the weekend before last. It was in flood, north branch of the LaHave River. So that was like a big whitewater trip with the canoes with spray decks and stuff. And then just this past weekend, we ran the Meander, and more of like a small, technical, somewhat whitewater river. So yeah, we've gotten out a lot lately. It's been a lot of fun.
I mean, that's awesome to be out and getting that stuff and showing people that you can still be doing that stuff in December.
Absolutely.
It's been a wonderful November, December for it. There's no, but yeah. So, all right. Well,
I mean, I dumped my canoe last weekend, so that was about as bad as it gets for cold weather canoeing.
I heard the story. You got hung up going over a little falls or something, did you? A little.
Yeah, just running one set there. Anyway, I didn't judge it quite right, and hips weren't quite as loose as they should have been, so I ended up going over the side. Luckily, you kind of go out expecting that when you're doing a little bit of whitewater stuff. So I had lots of dry clothes packed, so just got ashore and changed.
I'm pretty sure I saw a video where you didn't take an extra pair of socks. So I'm fairly certain this time you probably had a change of clothes.
I had pretty much everything, yeah. So I was comfortable for the rest of the day.
Oh, I love that. That was probably my favorite scene of any video I've ever seen ever. And I'm gonna lay it out. Noah, I think, was in the front of the canoe.
Yeah.
You were pushing off, and as you were pushing off, your left foot got a soaker.
Yeah, just a ledge. Like I went to step and push the canoe off, and I had my rubber boots on. It was actually like my boots have the like sort of a expandable calf gusset on the back.
Yeah.
But it's kind of too flexible. So if you actually put your boot in too far, that'll fold over from the water, and that's what happened. It just filled the boot. So
and then Noah,
that was just that was a pretty like glamping type of trip, and so I didn't bring anything spare.
Extra pair of socks. I would have to say I take an extra pair of socks with me to Sobeys. That's how drilled I've been about making sure I got an extra pair of socks. And the way Noah let you up about you didn't even bring an extra pair of socks.
Well, I kind of took issue with that though, because what would the extra pair of socks really have done for me? My boot was soaked. So what am I going to do? Put on a dry sock and put it into a wet boot? Like,
I don't.
My solution was to dry the sock off, put my foot in a garbage bag, and then put that in the boot, and I was dry the rest of the trip. So
true enough.
I don't know if the extra pair of socks would have done anything for me.
You are a true woodsman. That's how that.
Yes.
Yeah. You're almost a bushcrafter. That's how.
I don't know. I don't know if I qualify for that yet.
For that quite yet? Yeah. This was awesome. I know I tried to keep them to about a half an hour. I know that I could have. Well, I know I've had a full 3 days talking to you without any other than perhaps somebody passing out, but we won't mention that. We'll just tease him the rest of our natural lives about that.
Yeah.
So I could talk to you forever. I hope
let's do it again.
That maybe this year we do get to go out, maybe for an early season paddle and get out to one of these wilderness areas. Again, I think that's something that watching you do it and now having done it with you, met those opportunities. I love those. Yeah, those protected areas. They're awesome.
There's a huge amount of recreation available out there, and maybe I'll close on this, like talking to buddies of mine that have come here from Ontario that are doing that kind of thing. Is, I mean, you people in Nova Scotia might look out west and think of all the opportunity out there, but you got to remember, like out there, that's a 3, 4, 5, 6 hour drive away, where in Nova Scotia, it's almost in our backyards. Like you can drive less than an hour and do all this stuff. So
absolutely.
There's something to be said for the accessibility.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it accessible. Oh my goodness. Is it ever?
It doesn't get much more. I mean, with a little bit of know-how and doing a little bit of research to find some of these routes, there's a lot out there to do. Yeah.
All right. So that's episode 3. We're going to have Matt back on absolutely at some point down the line. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'll get this all put together and we'll throw it up on YouTube and get it shared out there. And I'm looking forward to meeting up with you again really, really soon. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, hold on. Now I shut this damn thing off.
Old man using technology. Look out, everybody.
Exactly. There we are. Stop.
All right. So sort of last thoughts. I want to thank Matt again for joining me, especially for the little wisecrack about the old man using technology at the end. I left that in just so that everybody got a little chuckle out of it. It does sometimes take me a while to figure out how to turn the record on Zoom and then how to turn it off. And I did get to speak with Matt a little bit after that, but probably a little bit too long, but always enjoy speaking with him so much. And he was a little remiss because he alluded that in his story, he wasn't entirely sure, because we got on to another topic, whether or not, because he'd seen the cub and he was concerned that maybe he had shot a sow that had cubs. It was indeed the sow that did not have cubs. The sow with the 3 cubs was in later that night and hid in the barrel, and that put his mind at ease. So he made the right decision. He knew that it was the smaller bear and ended up taking a solitary bear. So, just in case you picked up on that in the story and were concerned that maybe that's not how it turned out. So it all worked out for the best. So that was a lot of fun. Talking to guys about bear hunting is something I enjoy a great deal. I don't pretend that I'm any great expert on the subject. It is just something that I just enjoy so much. So, and I've been doing now for, I think 7 or 8. No, actually 8 or 9 years, maybe. I can't remember. The first time Phil Nelson actually let me set in one of his stands, and then I set up in Brian McDonald's stand out of the same camp the following night. And I learned so much there that the following year I was bear hunting with Dave up at camp and starting to finally have some success. So, so many great things to talk about and think about. So, you got any questions about what happened in this episode, or perhaps even if you have a question, that wasn't answered by Matt that you are kind of interested, jot them down. I know that he's on YouTube as well, and he'll probably check and probably wouldn't mind answering a few questions if you've got something specific for him. And as always, I'm very happy to listen to any comments you might have and reply back if need be. Keep it civil, as always. Thank you so much, guys. To the woods. See you all for episode 4.